Hello everyone, thank you for watching our informal debate on technology and how it affects the future of special education in ABA. My name is Ashley and I will be introducing the overall topic and each of the pros and cons. Jen will be covering the pros of technology in special education in ABA, and Vanessa will be discussing the cons. Michelle will go over all the visual aids and also ethical tie-ins for each topic discussed. Rachel will be the fielder and concluding the debate. First, we would like to give our definition of technology when used in the field of ABA and special education as any time an electronic device is used to aid in teaching, demonstrating, or training any individual. Examples of technology include, but are not limited to, iPad applications, gamification, Skype, assistive technology, and computer-assisted technologies. Here is a visual that further shows the use of technology in special education. Technology has become increasingly more popular with the Introduction Individuals with Disabilities Act. As you can see, technology can be used as multimedia in the classroom, such as digital textbooks or laptops. There are devices that help the hearing impaired, such as hearing aids and captionated television. Technology for those who need alternative forms of communication, such as AAC devices and devices to help the visually impaired, such as computer screen magnification. All of these examples provided by visual aid fall in the line with our definition of technology when used in the field. They all either help teach, demonstrate, or train an individual with a disability. Technology is continually growing and improving in all areas. The use of technology in special education and ABA has become a very controversial topic. Many different aspects play a role in how often and how much technology is used in special education and ABA. My first question for Jen and Vanessa is, how much does technology have an individual's well-being when it is used for special education and ABA purposes? Is technology often harmful or helpful in this aspect? We'll first hear from Jen with the pros, and Michelle with ethical tie-ins, and then Vanessa with the cons.
Technology can help improve the quality of life for many different types of people across many different types of disabilities. In an article by Wise in 2012, it is stated that a primary objective is the maximization of a child's ability to function independently, which is in many ways determined by the ability to perform daily essential tasks, including those involving hygiene, mobility, and social interaction. Technology can help to teach a child how to function more independently. Many individuals can be taught self-help skills with the use of gamification. Gamification turns things that may seem boring into more of a game format so that it is fun to learn the task. This can be done with many different types of task analyses, such as brushing teeth, cooking, or showering. A client who has problems with wanting to brush his teeth can learn how to do so in a fun way using an animated character that brushes his teeth with different materials. This turns a mundane task into something fun and increases the appeal of brushing teeth for that client. A client could learn self-care skills by taking care of an animated animal or creature on an application. They could feed the animal, shower it, walk it, put it to sleep, or even play with it. This shows the importance of doing their own self-care skills and puts a fun twist on how those skills could be used. An article by Morford 2014 states, "We collectively label as gamification refer to efforts to redesign life activities by drawing inspiration from methods in game design. Some of these activities include socially significant behavior change, such as improving health-related behavior, decreasing energy use, and improving technologies for teaching and learning." Another type of technology that could be used is telehealth. Telehealth is technology that can be in many different formats, but is used to help improve the communication of health, education, and medical services. These services can help families that are located in areas that do not have behavioral therapy get some sort of training, feedback, and communication about possible programs and interventions that can be put into place. In an article written by Kaplan and Lituka in 2008, they discussed the benefits of using telehealth services. Potential benefits of telehealth and telemedicine include greater availability of services and access to healthcare providers, including special services that may not be located near those needing them. A reduced disparities in healthcare accessibility, less travel time for both the patient and the clinician, lower costs, and quality improvements presumed to derive from access to more timely and accurate data, and improved information flow available at any time or any place. Many families that are already receiving services could have parent meetings, follow-up meetings, or conferences via telehealth instead of having to travel to centers that may be located many miles or even states away from them. A third type of technology that can be used is the Strongest Families Smart website. This website helps to train parents on how to improve their skills in order to help the child that is showing behavioral concerns. The trainings are done via the internet or over the phone so that parents can conduct interventions in the privacy and comfort of their own homes. The Strongest Families Smart website intervention is hypothesized to improve parenting skills, reduce child disruptive behavior, reduce parental distress, and improve family function. These results will likely inform subsequent investigations, public policy, and early treatment of childhood disruptive behavior problems.
The use of technology to improve the quality of life for individuals falls in line with ethical codes and principles. Autonomy and the pursuit of excellence are two ethical principles carried out when technology is implemented with individuals with disabilities. According to Bailey and Birch, 2011, respecting autonomy refers to promoting his or her own independence or self-sufficiency. By using technology to increase self-help skills, these individuals are improving their independence in daily living skills. Ethical Code 209, Treatment Intervention and Efficacy, is also applied to this pro of technology. Section A of Code 209 states that clients have the right to research effective treatments that have been validated as having short or long-term effects to the client's benefit clients and society. As Jen referenced in her articles, technology such as gamification and telehealth both provide short-term and long-term for these individuals.
For the con of quality of life, technology can harm or leave individuals without any improvement in their quality of life due to lack of informed consent, inability of the individual to use the technology, and dependency on the technology. First and foremost, an individual may consent to using a technological device, such as an AAC, for an individual who is unable to verbally communicate. However, if the device is left on a table, usually without a password, then it is open and available to be accessed by others. In this situation, others have access to personal information about that individual simply because of the inconvenience to have the device locked when it is their means of communication. Secondly, an individual may not be able to use the technology independently, or if they are taught, they may only know how to control certain aspects, but they may still require assistance for other components. When it comes to technology, it is the responsibility of more than one person to be knowledgeable about the use of the device in order to make it more accessible and personalized to that individual's lifestyle. According to research that was conducted by Kaplan and Latuka in 2008, individuals may feel overloaded by information and the actual usability of the device. Not all devices are user-friendly, and often individuals are left feeling more overwhelmed by all the specifics of the technology. It is important for individuals that use technological devices for communication purposes to have an easy mode of communication. If a team of professionals have determined that an individual is engaging in problem behaviors because of their frustration related to communication, they may offer the use of an AAC. However, if the individual still finds it more efficient to engage in the behavior to get what they want, then the AAC will leave the individual and their family in the same circumstances as was previously. Lastly, that individuals that use these devices may become so heavily dependent on the device that they lose so many independent skills. This raises many ethical concerns surrounding the intent of those who decide to implement these devices and what the actual end result is. The goals behind the use of these devices may fail to acknowledge the fact that individuals become highly dependent on their use. The objective of a variety of services is to alleviate feelings and dependency and allow for individuals to function as independent beings. When the individual becomes dependent on the device, they may lose other skills or alternative ways to deal with a situation. For example, if the device does not work, the individual may feel almost lost because they were so dependent on the device's usability.
In reference to technology harming individuals or leaving them with little or no improvement of life, core principles and codes of responsibility are violated. As behavior analysts, we hold responsibility to our clients to provide responsible research-based decisions to improve quality of life in our clients. When researching technology to use, the purpose of technology needs to be kept in mind. The most important thing to improve our clients' quality of life. As Vanessa referenced, Kaplan and Litwa, some technology may not have the best intentions for clients as its purpose. If the BCBA is unsure that this device will not work, they need to provide consent to parents so that the technology may or may not work, which is not always done, so it violates Code 202, responsibility.
Thanks, Michelle. Our next topic will discuss technology in a financial aspect. When working with children on the autism spectrum or in special education systems, you will come in contact with individuals on all different levels of social economical status. Does an individual's financial status play a role on how technology can affect their experience in ABA or in special education? Is technology only available and beneficial for individuals with a higher social economic status? Jen will start by discussing the financial benefits of technology.
Financially, many different types of technology are reasonable, or if they are expensive initially, would not require any updates or additional costs. One of these examples is a smartboard. Smartboards can be installed in classrooms, offices, conference rooms, or group therapy rooms. Smartboards use technology to teach Smartboard use technology to teach, do programs, and have interaction with students. In a quote from the Smart Technologies Incorporated website, they stated, "Smart's multiple free resources and services, including professional development, software upgrades, and technical support, eliminate many ownership costs, making total cost of ownership very affordable." I do realize that a company is going to speak highly of itself on its own website, but I personally have seen and used a smartboard. In the classroom, we were able to incorporate the smartboard into an art station where the students could draw on the board, erase, make shapes, etc. We were able to do all of our daily morning circle time on the smartboard, which included calendar, matching their names to pictures, naming colors and shapes, doing the weather, dressing a weather bear, and pick what we were going to do for lunch that day. Another type of technology that is starting to become more prevalent in schools and therapy centers are tablets and laptops. Laptops and netbooks have become a low-cost option for the classroom. Students who struggle with a pen and pencil find new opportunities to express themselves on the computer. Laptops and tablets are very useful. We had a tablet in the classroom that had DTT Trainer on it, which was a free application. With the app, we could download sets of cards to work with individual students The tablets also had free writing applications, free counting applications, free reading applications, and of course, games for reinforcement. These options can help students who may struggle with writing or communication. That can be personalized on tablets or computers for each individual. There is a free communication application for the iPad that is called Sonoflex that helps students to learn basic items, colors, foods, animals, actions, and other materials. There can be purchases made on the application in order to increase the amount of information that the child can communicate. There is also an application called Proloquo, and although the initial cost is around $250, the benefits are well worth the cost. The app can be customized for the individual. There can be real-life pictures taken and added. There can be voice recordings added to the tiles in order to aid in the process of teaching the individual how to communicate with the device. Gamification can also be low cost. Low-cost options of gamification could include PowerPoints, video recordings that show task analyses, chains, social stories that are made on BoardMaker, or things that are made using Microsoft Word. Making things seem like fun can help the individual feel like learning how to communicate is more like a game and less like work. All it takes is a creative mind in order to turn a mundane task into something fun for a student to do.
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything. Jen, are you done? Thumbs up. Okay. The use of technology that is financially reasonable or cost-effective shows the use of core principles and ethical codes. Core principle of benefiting others can be referenced with this pro of technology. As Jen stated, computers might be a more simple, quicker way for individuals to communicate or complete their work. This is beneficial to the client as well as the family or other caregivers or professionals that might work with the individual. This also shows the use of ethical principle 209, treatment, intervention, and efficacy once again. Technology is a great way to improve treatment intervention and provide efficient interventions for C of this code states that professionals should seek research-based interventions, but also look for efficient and cost-effective interventions. Simple updates or improvements effective and efficient for individuals.
The versatility of technology today can have a significant impact on a family's income. Technology can be very expensive to purchase. It may require updates or additional add-ons to use the item fully, and it truly impacts who is eligible to receive technological advances or information via technology. First, technology is an ever-growing industry, and of course the advances being made come at a cost. Researchers such as Kaplan and Latuka, 2008, stated that cost-effectiveness of technological devices have not been well established, which means research has shown that technology is no more effective in dealing with an individual's deficit or situation and is by no means any cheaper than other methods. Therefore, we aren't necessarily seeing more gains, but it is more costly. This only reiterates the fact that technology can additionally impact the financial strain a family may already endure due to caring for a child or individual with special needs. Leaving a family possibly better helped, but definitely at a price, or in some cases, as I mentioned previously, no better off in terms of their quality of life, and now with a little more of a financial burden. Furthermore, our technology is always changing. It's becoming better and more efficient in its use. For this reason, families may also have to bear the weight of upgrading their technology, whether that be the actual device, the software, the hardware, and or applications on the device itself. According to NAM in 2015, when examining the use of assistive technology and their associated costs, people often tend to overlook the cost of upgrading. In addition, she also mentioned that goes on to mention that there's often a lack of funding that gets allocated to individuals that require assistance to meet these ever-increasing costs of assistive technologies. In my personal experience, an iPad was used for a client, just stopped working, and of course the warranty on the device had expired. This family unfortunately could not bear the cost to afford a new device, but was fortunate enough to have our center pay for it. There are many situations like this, and they're not always going to be so fortunate enough to have a center pay for this cost. As a result of these increasing costs and limited funding or support with the financial strain related to technology, we go back to my original first point, that often individuals are left with little to no improvements in their quality of life because the technology that once helped stopped working and their family could not afford a new device, and as a result, the individual was left dependent on others. Lastly, income greatly impacts the amount and quality of information a family has access to. Families may struggle to receive information regarding different methods or strategies to use with their child because financially they cannot afford to. According to Kaplan and Latuka in 2008, income is highly related to the amount of internet a family or individual uses. This means that families who have low income can only afford low-grade versions of internet connections, meaning they fall into what Kaplan and Latuka called an information gap. In addition, some individuals may not be eligible financially to receive assistive devices. So not only are families struggling to receive information that provides helpful support in understanding ABA and other services that may be offered or beneficial to their child's needs, they are also removed from waiting lists to receive devices because of the cost. This has a great impact on the quality of life that is experienced by not only the child's family, but of course the child.
The use of technology can be violations of core ethical principle of being truthful and Code 8.04 media presentations and media-based services. As Vanessa stated, many forms of technology offer free trials or limited and require purchases to run the whole program or update newer versions. Oftentimes, these programs and costs are not covered by services and come from the family's pocket. According to Code 8.04, Section A, behavior analysts are required to obtain knowledge and inform families of limitations and security of media-based services. If a behavior analyst has not maintained knowledge, they have violated the principle of being truthful, as well as Ethical Code 8.04.
Our last argument topic will cover technology and its impact on social acceptance and inclusion. In today's society, technology is used every day for communication and social aspects, from social media to communicating through emails. Many people use technology as a way to keep in touch or meet new people. Can this social aspect be carried over into special education and ABA to help individuals communicate and socialize more effectively? Or does it play the opposite effect and socially isolate them? Once again, we will hear from Jen with the pros and then Vanessa with the cons.
Because technology can be individualized and customized to the different needs of each person, it has an important societal impact, which can leave people who need to use the technology feeling included in society. Many different types of technology are easily accessible for individuals, and they can be modified easily. Many of the iPad or iPhone applications can be customized by taking live pictures, videos, and recording live audio. iPhones and iPads are everywhere in society, and a person that needs to use the technology would not feel odd taking it out to use. In an article by Leroy in 2008, it states, "The second enhancement is that images shown using the smartphone can be easily customized based on the needs, interests, and preferences of each child, but also for groups of children without extra effort." This can be also true for laptops that individuals may have to carry with them to type out information that they want to share with others. It is important to not only make the person feel like they are part of a normal society, but that they don't want to be judged in a culture where everyone is judged when they are different. Customization helps significantly when looking at each individual. Not everyone is the same. In an article written by Pellissiari in 2010, this point is clear. Cognitive and communicative abilities among individuals with ASDs may range significantly. One student with autism may experience difficulty in expressive language and social abilities, while another individual with autism may struggle in imitation receptive language. In order to create an optimal learning environment for individuals with ASDs, individualized education and instructional plans are essential for academic and behavioral success. I have worked with many different individuals that have been all over the autism spectrum. Some individuals had no communication skills at all, and they used aggression to communicate. The first steps in reducing aggression that seems to be caused by lack of communication is to add some sort of communication. This particular individual was taught sign language signs. He had only acquired 3 by the time his insurance cut funding, but he was able to be taught how to communicate using his iPad with an app on there that was customized for his particular needs. I have also worked with individuals that were extremely high functioning but that lacked social skills. By using technology, computers, with a game that similar functioning individuals also liked, Minecraft, we were able to teach appropriate social skills. In an article by Leroy from 2008, they state that the second enhancement is that images shown using the smartphone can be easily customized based on the needs, interests, and preferences of each child, but also for groups of children without extra effort. If there is a social group or a group of 2 individuals, technology can be easily tweaked in order to fulfill the needs of that group. One example would be when using an app to do discrete trials. You can easily customize the app to adhere to the group's goals instead of the individual's goals. An article by Seal says we need to expand our thinking beyond that of how to comply with the rules towards how to meet the needs of students with disabilities within the local context that students and practitioners are working. In order to fully include the individual and make them feel as if they are part of the whole of society, we need to think outside of the box. There are many different ways technology helps us to make individuals feel included.
Technology is now used in various places and settings. Individuals that use technology for improvement or independence in skills are using technology in homes, schools, and public places. Jen mentioned that iPhones, tablets, computers, etc. are all customizable and widely accepted and individualized for each person by their device. By making these devices individualized and customizable, the use of core principle of benefiting others and Ethical Code 409, least restrictive procedures, are being adhered to. Clients are benefited by being able to use technology that increases their skills while also making the client's devices personalized. Ethical Code 409 is being practiced by this pro of technology because individuals are given and recommended technology that will make their learning and skill improvement portable and able to be used in multiple environments, therefore allowing individuals to access multiple learning environments.
Technology is flawed, and its inconsistencies affects the social inclusion and right to privacy. First off, technology is faulty. It can glitch or stop working at any time, and sometimes with no solution readily available. When it comes to technology, we are often reactive to the glitches and problems that arise, which only make situations more difficult to handle. For example, when a child finally independently exhibits a behavior, such as tying shoes, for the first time, and they worked for the iPad, their instructor goes to hand the child the iPad. Unfortunately, the iPad stops working after 5 seconds, and the child becomes frustrated and exhibits a problem behavior. In these situations, we're often left scrambling to find a new reinforcer. An important point that Perry and Bayer in 2009 discuss is from their research is that we often spend time and effort fixing devices or computers, which ultimately takes away time from our child, the services we provide them, and the resources that we can use to enrich their environments. Of course, it is not easy when technology glitches, but it is both our dependency and our clients' dependency on these devices that make their glitches less manageable to deal with. Next, technology can significantly impact feelings of inclusion and normalcy for an individual. AAC devices can have an effect on an individual's sense of social inclusion. For example, when using a device that uses vocal output on the device as a means of communication, the exchange component of a social interaction is often lost. When the individual types in a response or comment, they may not be near anyone, so they're not really having an exchange. Rather, they're just asking or talking without anyone really listening. This can have a serious influence on an individual's self-esteem, as they may feel excluded socially or find it more difficult to feel socially accepted. Now, this is something that is just part of using a device, and of course, removing communication would not make the situation any better. However, low-tech devices such as PECS teaches the initiation and exchange of communication. And as previously mentioned, technology can glitch or stop working, which only makes situations, as I stated above, even more problematic for an individual's social experience. Who is eligible to receive devices or who is allowed to use the devices can segregate people. Unfortunately, some families may not be able to afford the cost of a device, and other families may meet certain criteria and put in place to be eligible for one. Additionally, a family may have religious or ethnic beliefs that prohibit the use of these devices. Due to religious and/or personal beliefs, an individual and their families may feel they are excluded from information or upcoming and developing strategies or services for individuals with special needs. These are only 3 of a list of ways that individuals and their families can feel excluded. Research in this area indicates the lifestyle that has become technology and how technology is designed is largely influenced by what Kaplan and Litwika say values and intentions for how and why the technologies should be used. Often the individuals making the technological advances do not consider all of the variables such as income and ethnic background, which do affect feelings of social inclusion. The last and final downfall to technology is a level of privacy that can be obtained. Of course, technology can be encrypted with passwords or passcodes, but certain devices or technologies don't allow for the use of them. The reality of the situation today is that most medical information is simply clicks away. Resnick in 2001 stated that the level of security is not what it used to be, with individuals able to hack and access pertinent and private documents and reports. A minor example is communicative devices that have personalized information on them. The devices are usually not locked as they serve communication purposes, which means that the information is accessible to anyone who can swipe to open the screen. Ethically, an individual may have to offer up their right to privacy in order to communicate. The level of privacy within technology in all environments is not as secure as we may think.
Technology has the ability to malfunction in many situations. Sometimes glitches occur and the device stops working, the battery suddenly dies, or the sound might not work. All of these occurrences violate core ethical principle of according dignity. Individuals that use a device for self-help or communication may begin to feel unable to represent themselves or unable to communicate if their devices are constantly malfunctioning. Ethical Code 2.06, maintaining confidentiality, is also at risk when using technology. Sometimes there is very personal information on an individual's devices and accessed or hacked, leaving individuals feeling vulnerable. As Vanessa stated from Resnick 2001, people can be just a few clicks away from accessing personal records and private information. Technology that is used along with personal information runs a high risk of violating confidentiality. Before we summarize, we'd like to show one more visual aid from specialeducationdegree.net. Rachel, can you pull it up?
I have it up. I don't know why no one can see it. I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. Now can you see it now?
Is it up? Okay. Okay, there we go. This visual aid provides a larger look into those affected and the struggle to provide services through public education. This visual aid raises an important fact that while it is great that technology has been introduced to aid in speech for those with disabilities, the cost is extremely high and only 15% is covered by our government. As you can see, about 6 million students are in special education, and the cost to educate those is nearly $51 billion, yet $44 billion goes towards public education and gen ed classrooms, leaving little left for those that require assistance. You can scroll down to the last part.
Right here.
Is it? I can't see if it's up or not. Mine's not working.
You're good. Go ahead.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sorry. However, these new technologies can greatly improve the lives of those affected with disabilities. It provides advances in learning and improved communication, relieves anxiety and stress, as well as helps students feel accomplished and allows for them to stay in class with their peers. As you can see, we've discussed numerous pros and cons about technology and special education. This visual provides a little more into benefits as well as struggles with providing the needed services for those with a disability. Now Rachel will summarize our previously identified points.
Okay. Let me switch back. Okay, I'm going to summarize. So, throughout the debate today, we have provided a substantial amount of information to support and also to reject the use of technology for individuals with special needs. While addressing the topic of quality of life, Jen delivered a compelling case in support of technology. Technology such as gamification provides opportunity for individuals to improve self-care skills and promote independence through the use of animated modeling and interactive practice. Individuals are also able to improve quality of life through telehealth systems by providing healthcare, behavioral services, and access to parent training websites to improve continuity and generalization of treatment services. The core ethical principle of respecting autonomy is not only promoted but expected to be enhanced through the use of this type of technology. Arguing a few solid points, Vanessa addressed the cons of technology for improving quality of life to be increased dependence and helplessness. As much as we expect these individuals to understand how to use the devices and systems, they can be quite difficult to master, requiring continued assistance from another person. She also references system malfunction or failure. We cannot simply assume that technology will work every day without a glitch or an error. How will the individual respond in a situation without their primary source of communication or function? Dependency upon another individual, or even upon a device itself, certainly does not promote independence, but further subjects the individual into helplessness. Addressing the financial aspect of technology was our second subtopic of the debate. Through personal experience and providing research to support, Jen stated that although initial costs may be high, costly technology may have limited costs over time. Technology such as smartboards provide free resources and training to anyone with access to the technology. Also mentioned was the fact that these available technologies, tablets and laptops, are portable and personalized to fit the needs of the individual learner with free applications such as Sonaflex. Making compelling argument, Vanessa found that more than not, most families cannot afford the initial costs of these many technologies, and those who can, be it through funding or a lifetime savings account, fail to foresee the cost of upkeep with required system updates, upgrades, everyday wear and tear, or accidental breaks. Research has not yet been completed on the true cost effectiveness of many of these programs and devices, so how can we be sure that the benefits are worth the cost? Also, if these devices and programs are not yet widely accessible to the general population and too costly for low-income families to afford on their own, are these individuals truly being provided the most effective treatment? These questions and financial requirements may be enough to deter families from the use of devices in order to save time and money and provide effective treatment as soon as possible. Lastly, we addressed the use of technology's impact on an individual's societal acceptance and social inclusion. We heard Jen express her support by explaining how devices are, for the most part, individualized, portable, and applicable to multiple environments or situations in society. How many people sit in a restaurant with their iPhone next to their plate? How often do you see parents giving their children's iPads in order to keep them busy in the supermarket? Society has adapted to the great advances in technology, and individuals using these types of devices are no longer singled out and easily noticeable. In almost any setting, individuals using a communicative system can rely on technology to keep them included. Whether it be ordering from a menu, purchasing something at the mall, she makes a great point by acknowledging that the person receiving the interaction does not need extensive prerequisite knowledge when using devices, which would be the case if someone were trying to communicate using sign language, for example. Technology allows for such easy adaptations within its basic programming that there's little room for error. However, once again, we were reminded of the pitfalls of technology in general. Glitches and unforeseen technological issues are bound to arise, mostly leaving the individual without an appropriate communication method. Research supported this argument and furthermore added that an incredible amount of time is spent trying to access or fix a device, leaving less time for instruction or training. Again, this type of dependency and helplessness may affect one's ability to react appropriately in a social situation when they're relied upon device or technology has unexpectedly failed. Even more dangerous, these devices contain sensitive personal information, with many individuals requiring access to just one device. This information is not password protected often, and once again we are reminded that technology, although it can promote independence and inclusion, can many times put the individual in a dangerous or compromising position. So we hope you enjoyed our debate today, and hope that you consider the pros and cons of technology equally before using it exclusively. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think your group did a really nice job presenting the different sides of technology and some of the different pros and cons of it. So that was really well done. You did a really nice job incorporating the research literature as well as the codes and how they're applicable to some of the points that you were making. So that was really, really well done. One of the things that your group discussed was how really, and I think it's just important to reiterate that technology is really available to help deliver behavioral interventions. The technology in and of itself is not going to be an intervention. Really, it's a delivery device to deliver some type of behavioral intervention. And so as you're thinking, you know, and pursuing your BCBA, what do you think about technology in regards to delivering a behavioral intervention? Do you think maybe it's more consistent than a person might be, or what do you think might be some of the, you addressed some of the benefits, but in regards to actually delivering behavioral interventions?
If I could speak first, I have an answer. I think it's good to have as a first plan that you can plan something, your behavioral intervention, and you can use it, but you always need a backup and you always need a secondary plan just in case, like we said, those glitches or those errors happen. Currently I teach, and every day something goes wrong with technology that I have to have a backup plan. You can never have the children just sitting there or the client just waiting for something for you to try to fix the technology. So you have to keep moving. You have to have something in your repertoire where you can pull it out and say, okay, we're going to achieve the same goal, but we're going to do it a different way. Anyone else? All of their mics are muted, so.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that a lot of what I do in my job right now is low tech, and there's not a lot of that technology piece involved in the actual applying of behavioral interventions. However, I find that it depends exactly what you're trying to target in terms of the behavior, because sometimes you end up falling into this pattern where you want to use technology in terms of consistency and accuracy. So like for graphing purposes of an intervention, let's say specifically, but to actually carry out a specific intervention, as Jen pointed out, as it can be really fun for a kid, you might also find that you're struggling with the piece of a kid finding that piece of technology fun for them versus using it more for a behavioral intervention aspect. So for using it for the actual point of dealing with a behavior. So I think that it really depends specifically on what you're trying to target and how it's going to be incorporated into it. That'll impact whether or not it's more consistent and more accurate in that sense. However, speaking to the graphing purposes and more of the kind of behind the scenes part of an intervention, that piece of it is very important and makes it a lot less time consuming.
I can definitely add to that. The company that I work for now, we use Catalyst. I don't know if anybody has heard of that, but we use it to actually track behavioral data and stuff like that while we're working with the kids. And even though I was for the pros of technology, Catalyst is pretty horrible. It updates on a regular basis, and it'll kick you out. You lose data. A lot of times we'll work on data, and they have these little thermometers that you have to try and turn green by the end of the day, just to show how much you've worked on their programming and stuff like that with. And a lot of times if it updates or something, it'll completely clear everything out. So everything that you've worked on that day just goes up in the air and it's gone.
Okay, all right. Well, that's great. Yeah, I think I think it is just challenging to think, just like your debate discussed some of the challenges associated with technology glitching, or as some of us have experienced with Google Hangouts even, during these debates, it's not always reliable. One of the other points that your group discussed was the impact of technology on independence, and so, some of my previous research has looked at technology, and I've argued in my research that by providing a technology, you can actually help promote independence, which was some of the points that was discussed in this debate. And so what do you think about a client who has maybe limited skills and maybe some behavioral problems, what do you think about their dependency on a technology versus their dependency on a person, like maybe a caregiver or a parent or a staff person? Do you think it's better for them to be able to use a technology versus having to have a person there to prompt them or to help them? What do you think?
I guess I'll talk first. I think that yes, the point of getting them to to be independent through the use of technology. So great, we're going to get them to have that independence and rely more on technology versus relying on someone else, which gives them a little bit more of that independence in their life. I think that the problem, and I think the point that I was trying to make when it came to the con section of the dependency and the lack of independency from technology, is when those faulty points come up, or when there's those like it's overwhelming and they don't know how to do something to a certain extent, that you rely on someone else, which is not something that none of us ever do. We all rely on each other for help, but to what extent do we say that that's independent versus dependent? So are we forcing them to be independent, which is great, but then when all of these kind of problems come up, or they don't know how to kind of readily find a solution for that problem, they become very dependent on us and how we can help them. And then the problem is, if the people they depend on also don't have that solution, then we're waiting out for an answer for them to be independent. So I think it becomes also a lag of the way that they become independent.
I also wanted to add that I think it is really important for them, for these clients to use the devices to be more independent. And I'm kind of swaying on the opposite end of this. Like, if you are one of those clients that use the devices and depend on it that much for communication, then you are going to be taught how to react in certain situations, and what to pull out when your device does fail, or how to rely on someone else in any situation. You're constantly thinking about that. But first and foremost, you need to use those devices and learn how to communicate to do anything else. It's going to be more consistent across all the settings, and it's going to be easier to generalize. You're not always going to have your mom with you, or you're not always going to have a brother or sister or an aide. Like if you have a one-on-one aide in school, they don't technically go home with you all the time, and you're learning to just use one device for generalization rather than learn how to interact with more than one aid or someone to help you communicate. So I think it is going to be a little bit easier for that person to learn communication and just rely on how to react in certain situations rather than learn how to communicate with all the people they need to work with in different situations, if that makes sense.
I have worked with a few kids whose parents say they don't have behaviors because they can communicate with mom, but they can't communicate with anybody else. So when anybody else tries to communicate with them, they engage in behavior, and mom says, oh, well, I can communicate with him, but it's not effective because he can't generalize that to communicate with anyone else. He can't communicate with people at school. He can't communicate with therapists. So mom has to be there all the time in order for him to communicate effectively.
Another thing, I think with technology today, like say you do have the iPad and those apps that you can use for, it's sort of like PECs, you can use to try to get your message across. Sometimes, I guess, if you have a parent, they could, with best intentions, they could always misconstrue the meaning of the client if they are nonverbal. They're just probably assuming sometimes, I'm not saying this happens all the time, but maybe the parent will say, oh, this is what my son wants, or this is what my daughter wants, and with technology today on the iPad, they can easily point to or Google something that they have to get across, and if it's not in their system, they can access it some other way. Hopefully they can type it out, or they can get a picture of it. So if they aren't, you can be as specific as you want, and your messages will be a little bit more clear, and it won't be misconstrued.
Okay, yeah, I think you guys made some excellent points, and so one of the other questions I had was because we know there's a lot of different technologies that are available out there. As your group discussed, there's many different apps available in regards to communication, a whole lot of different ways that we can a whole pool of different technologies that we can try to choose from when thinking about the needs of our clients. So what strategies, or did you find anything in the research in regards to, or from your personal experiences, how do you know how to match a technology with a client? How do you know that the technology, maybe it's your preferred technology, but how do you know that it's an actual good match for the client that you're working with?
I can answer this partially. I'm sure somebody will have something to add, but I know, like, specifically, the client that I mentioned in the actual debate, he was learning signs, but he was learning them very, very slowly because he had poor motor skills, fine motor skills. So we wanted to try something else to add to his communication skills in order to try and improve those communication skills. Especially because he would grab your hair and pull your hair or try to scratch you, but he was just trying to get your attention. So by using the technology, the iPad, to try and teach him to use it, we had voice recordings on it, so that voice recording would get your attention, and teaching him those skills like reduces aggression tenfold because he was finding other ways to communicate. Because the signs weren't working well enough for him. Anybody else?
I can add. When I was doing looking at some of the research, there's actually a lot of research looking at like hierarchies. So there's almost like a certain level at which a child has to reach in order to be for them to be matched with a certain type of technology for them to use. And it's something similar to what we use also at my center, where you have to reach a certain level, and then when you reach that certain level, we kind of introduce a new form of technology. So we'll start off at Manding and then kind of work towards PECS, and then once they get to PECS, we move to Sonoflex, and if Sonoflex doesn't work, we might use Proloquo. But then just with like other programs, there is like a mastery and a revision criteria that you have to almost meet in order for you to stay at that point, or if we find that it's not actually working or matched well for that child.
I also have used a lot of different devices, and I couldn't really hear what Jen was saying, but like Vanessa said, we kind of just do, at my company, we look at the learner and we have benchmarks that they should meet with it. So we decide if they have really good motor skills, but they can't vocalize, like maybe sign is a good use for them. So then we make them a sign book, and then they can move on to PECS or get a device. And then we also look at, like, especially when picking devices, we go between like TouchChat, Proloquo, the LAMP. And then, like, I have a client who was using TouchChat for a really long time, and he just wasn't getting it. So finally, we decided, like, let's try to switch to a LAMP device because he's a motor planner, and LAMP is much better for motor planning. So he's doing amazing with it. But we decided, like, we sat down, home team and school team and speech, and we were like, we're going to do a 3-month trial of this, see how it works, and then compare the data from both. And his data has just gone through the roof for communication. So it's kind of also trial and error, but you can also look at the research, but it also really depends on what kind of learner they are. Do they motor plan? How are their motor skills? Are they interested in gamification? Is that going to be fun for them to increase their self-help skills? Because if they're not interested in games, it's not going to work. So just a lot of that stuff too.
Okay, well, yeah, I think, Michelle, you brought up a lot of really good points. Is, sometimes it might be some time just you need to allocate for trial and error to just let the technology be tested out and see how the client responds to it. Is it working for them? And then again, going back to the data and seeing what the data is really showing in regards to their progress. So those are really good points to emphasize as well. And so my final question is that one of the points that your group discussed was the role of finances and technology. And so, some points were really very well made about some of the limitations of financial resources that could be available to clients. And so I was wondering, do you think that less expensive technology should be used for clients who have less resources? There are technologies that are maybe cheaper than the newest, most newest technology, but do you think it's worth engaging or giving them some technology that's less expensive if that's all that their resources would allow for them?
I think you have to look at the overall function of what you want to get out of the intervention. I don't think just saying, oh, this is the cheapest one, so we're going to give it to you because you don't have the money to afford the most expensive. You have to look at the functionality of the client. You have to look at what they are able to do right now, and you don't just start a young client off with the most expensive, the newest, if you don't think that they're going to be that successful. You have to have some inkling of or something that tells you that they are going to learn how to use it. And like you said before, the trial and error, but if money is the biggest concern, maybe start with something that isn't as expensive or brand new, so you don't backtrack and you don't say, oh, we wasted all this money, because then you could have parents coming in also saying, well, we put all this money out and this didn't work in the first place, so, and then they're going to turn around and blame it on you. And I hate to think pessimistically, but I've been in situations when parents come in a meeting where they wanted something and then it didn't work, but we tried everything we could, and then, I mean, they're just looking for answers. So, you say it's blame, but I think you have to use what's available, and if that does happen to be the cheaper form, you go from there. You build upon those skills, and if the client works really well with something and you want to try to increase it from there, maybe that's the steps that you take.
Okay, all right.
Michelle,
I think
did you want to talk?
No, I'm okay. Sorry.
Vanessa,
Okay.
do you have something?
No, I was just kind of like piggyback on Rachel's point, just that you can start off at the cheaper methods, and it's great to have those resources available to families that can't afford it, because it's something for them, it's a starting point for them. But like Rachel said, you can't just go in blind and say, this is the cheapest one, therefore should be the next step, because we don't want to give the illusion that we're giving them the answer and solving all of their problems because there was a cheaper available technological device that they could use. We don't want to kind of set their standards too high and then kind of fall back on our own feet and saying that, oh, it didn't actually work, it wasn't the best situation. And then in that case, even though it was a cheaper method, we might have still put them in a financial put them in a financial strain area, because that cheaper method wasn't necessarily cheap, just cheaper than other alternatives.
And I also think it's kind of like any other behavioral intervention service, where you have to weigh your options and you come up with plans and you present them to the parents or the client themselves, and you say, well, this would be the pricing for this, and this is what we would do with this. Like any other thing, you're not just going to give them everything that you can offer, because you have to be able to support it. You have to be able to back it up. I mean, you can't, yes, we would love to offer all these services, but there's not enough funding to do that for every single client, and that's just the reality. And hopefully in the future, technology, the price comes down because it is going to be used more and more, and just like you see with the first cell phone coming out or the first computer, and now you have cheaper options that do the same thing, but I mean, the prices are coming down, and there's always going to be the next newest thing that's going to cost something. But I mean, my iPhone's going to do the same thing as the next 3 versions that come out, and it's going to be cheaper than those other options when that does happen. So I think you can easily relate it to any other situation, not just specifically technology. You have to still present the options and let them choose overall, but not just give them one thing, this is what we're doing.
Okay, well, excellent points, and I think you're right on track. Especially what Rachel was saying at the end, and just reiterating, that you don't just want to jump into something just because it's available, and maybe it's something that's affordable for the client. You really want to consider the purpose of why you're selecting that technology, and maybe seeing what other options might be available, and what kind, and then maybe thinking about doing some trial with that technology, like we talked about in regards to matching it. Is a less affordable technology going to meet the needs of that client and help them progress based on the skills that you selected for them? So I think that that those are excellent points. So that concludes all of my questions. So we could go ahead and end the recording at this time.